I've read chapter 4. Yeah, you have. Who else? You have. Who else? You have. Excellent. Alright, we have 3 good students. That's it. 3 good students who have actually prepared some class. Alright. Now, chapter 4 talks about strategy continuum, right? Can someone summarize it for us? Yeah. Can you please just do that quickly? Not necessarily summarize everything else, but can you pick up an area that so interested you and you sort of were delighted about it, or you got some enhanced understanding of RM at the point? All right.
Yeah,
so your name is
chapter. My name is Clement.
Clement, yeah, Clement.
The whole chapter is talking about transactional and relational marketing.
That's right.
And it's emphasized on the importance of the two.
Yeah.
That there's a need for the two to coexist.
That's right.
Because both of them are very important for the effectiveness of an organization.
Excellent. Excellent. Who else? Go ahead, Pastor.
It also says an organization cannot be purely transactional.
Yeah. Good show. What else? Who else? That's right. That's right. So one of the drivers of RM or TM. Okay, so that's basically it. I mean, how many of us can say that, or how many of us agree that perhaps organizations have to be purely relational? Or corporate relationship, supplier-customer relationship, or supplier-buyer relationship has to be, what do you call, relational, or has to be RM. How many of us? 2, 3, 4. How many of us actually say that, no, it can't be pure relational, but it has to be coexistence? Coexistence. Okay. Now, how many of us would say that, no, it has to be TM with a flavor of RM? Not necessarily coexistence, but a flavor of RM. How many of us? Nobody. Okay, so the argument typically in the literature, when the proponents of RM actually started, there was some kind of like an enthusiasm, some mojo somewhere to say that, yes, we've cracked it. All right, corporate relationships, obviously, or the market relationship, the market industry has to be relational. And RM was actually pushed up the ladder as a dominant theory. So that argument went on, and people started refining their thought to say that, no, hang on, empirical evidence is actually not supporting the fact that RM has to be all in all, dominant theory. Or whether TM is dead. Transactional marketing is dead. That's what RM, when they started, that's what they were arguing. That there's a pure takeover. There's a total takeover of the exchange relationship, where the relationship or the transactional, relationship is no longer, or the transactional mode of doing things is no longer, but now it's about the relational, exchange. So once that argument went on, now people then started researching it, having empirical evidence, not supporting the idea that TM is dead, and not supporting the idea that there's a total takeover of the market by RM. So people started refining their thoughts and accommodating the fact that at a point there has to be TM, and at a point there has to be RM. So that continuum, that strategy continuum actually argument started surfacing, and people started, coalescing around the 3 areas, or the 4 areas, as in RM as a concept, RM as a total takeover, as a paradigm shift, RM as a coexistence, or RM as an integral part of the entire strategy. The fourth. You get a point. But again, the argument is that it's sector or industry specific or industry, influenced. Now, the argument is that can Coca-Cola, for example, be RM? When you're operating in the FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods like Coca-Cola, when you're operating as a Gillette, do you really see yourself profitable or profiting from relationship? And thank God UCG had our prayer. So yeah, that's the question. So we're going to look at these paradigms. And I think that it's an interesting area for us to debate in class. It's good. It's a very good kind of area for us to engage in interaction. Forget about the theory. I mean, practically in your own working environment, do you really think going to your boss and say, fantastic, I think that, listen, the best way to go is for us to be relationship oriented? And then your boss will say, are you serious? Are you serious? So we've got to actually understand some of the so-called antecedents or the drivers, or some of the factors that actually influence a particular strategy. Do you really have to say, this is the Holy Grail, let's move on to that particular strategy? Or do you have to do a very clear introspection of what the context is and how you can actually profit or benefit both ways, the customer and the consumer, and the customer and then the company, going for a particular strategy? So that's what we're going to look at. So, just in them. All right, so as we try to get it, what's the news? Can somebody tell us what's the current news? We're listening to the news, aren't we? What's the current news now? The topic of
politics.
Yeah, as always. What's happening?
Yesterday there was a press conference by incumbent NDC chairman fighting to maintain his position. He launched his campaign yesterday.
That was Dr. Kobnaji. Did you listen to his argument?
I listened to part of it.
He said if somebody comes to tell you that he can control the president more than he Kobnaji can, that's the doom.
Being a strong politician is not about the government.
It's not about how tall you are.
It's soft.
Politicians are interested. And then I think, and you listen to this guy, General Mosquito.
Yes.
That guy is fascinating.
That's why nobody's contesting him, I think.
He's a strong politician. I mean, he's an astute politician. He understands strategy. He goes to say, if any one of them invites me, I will come. Because he's gone for one, isn't it? So he could be chastised as taking sides. So if any one of us invites me, I will come, but I will come with your record. And I will say it as it is. That's an interesting smart move, But yeah, that's politics for you. Alright, and then the topical is also what the bailoutism. Let's explore our ideas a little bit about the bailout. What do you understand by bailout? Obviously, it's as it is. Bailout. IMF again with us. What is our take on it? Good or bad? I know the political guys are here, so they have opinion.
It
Good or bad?
has positives and negatives.
Positives and negatives. What are the positives?
The positives is it may give us a temporary relief from the economic difficulties that we are in.
Yeah.
But the negatives are...
I'm sure Papa is going to disagree with you.
The negatives will be the tightening of the belt we have to.
Yeah.
I'm sure, yes, tightening the wage bill,
Yeah.
fees on employment.
If you were in charge of affairs, how would you go about it?
As to the decision to go to IMF.
Yeah, and the issue about what do you call conditionalities and things. I mean, just sum up your move, your strategy. How would you go about it? Okay. If Andrew, okay, sorry.
If now in chat, I'll try to look at what the end story is going to be for us.
Yeah.
Are we going to be worse off than we were when we took on these policies?
Yeah.
Or what happened? So that will inform my decision as to what. In most cases, you realize it makes you worse off.
Yeah.
So that has to probably be.
So you've actually answered the question. You will go.
Yeah,
because
once I get it, I'm able to establish, make me worse off than where I was before the functionalities came, and I'll say, well, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, who else?
Yeah, but the question to is that do we really have a choice?
That's another question. Yeah. That's a very good question.
I think we have a choice.
Yeah.
Because Cuba.
Yeah.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Other countries have ignored IMF and succeeded. So I think we can just learn from them.
Yeah, but the question is, Cuba didn't actually have it rosy.
Yes.
So then again, the conditionalities that IMF is actually bringing on board has to be experienced internally. You understand the point?
Yeah.
Because Cuba, for example, had conditionalities not imposed by IMF but internal. So tightening your belt. They have to forsake a whole lot of stuff, good living and things like that, in order to rise up. China did the same. So in this case, it's not IMF asking you to tighten your belt, it's you yourself asking yourself to tighten your belt. So it's going to be worse off again in terms of cuts and whatever, you know. So the point is, even if you don't go IMF, you want to go Cuba style, you still have to tighten your belt. So that's why he was asking, do we have a choice? You know, it looks like, to me, it looks like that we don't want to forsake things that we've been doing all along. But frankly, there are a lot of waste in the system. We have to be objective and we have to be self-critical. You know, if we are self-critical, we can imagine that, or we can actually envisage that there are quite a lot of waste and we have to cut it. We don't have to have IMF to tell us. So like you're saying, we can have a homegrown title to belt approach. Not necessarily, you know, kind of told by IMF, or not necessarily, you know, tested by IMF.
So the whole point is we should be able to manage the economy such that we shouldn't even get to this point where we have to go to.
Agreed, but we have gotten to this point.
That's where I think the problem is.
Yeah.
In the first place, the management of the economy.
I agree with you.
You have to task.
See, personal finances tells us that whenever you realize that your wage, I mean, whatever money that you have is dwindling, what do? You start, you know, managing small. You start buying Benku, maybe 1 Ghana, 50 Ghana instead of 2 Ghana. You understand? Why don't you do the same? But you see, when it comes to statecraft, quite a lot of things are at play. Your position is on your neck, you know, and you think that the people are also listening to your position. So even if you don't have it, you still want to do it because of political expediency. But I think that the onus is on us, the citizenship, to really identify and understand where we are and how, to what extent we can bear with one particular, you know, government or the other. But if we're not doing that, then we're not doing anything, you know, good to ourselves. Do you get it? We've got to realize that we've got. I mean, since last year, about 40 plus countries have been on IMF bailout, including Pakistan, Portugal, Spain, name them. Quite a number of countries have been on IMF bailout.
With the Ghanaian circumstance now, I think that the politicians, I'm not being biased, the politicians want us, the citizens, to tighten our belts.
Why do you not tighten?
Because when these, in the US, in the 2008, 2009, all the politicians and the citizens tightened their belts.
Exactly.
But here we are not doing that.
I agree with you. And I was saying that if it comes to cutting down the wage bill, that's not the right move. You rather want to cut down the ministerial appointment. All the deputy ministers should go. There's no point having deputy ministers. You have directors in it. Most ministries, all the ministries have directors, technical guys who manage, especially deputy regional ministers. So why do we have to have deputy ministers? If we still want to keep that tradition, at this austerity moment, let's chop them off. Once the economy starts going, it can go back for them if we think there's a need. You understand? Chop all the deputy positions off, chop all the special whatever needs off to reduce the bill.
It's political because then people who have contributed towards the campaign,
We'll get there.
party winning.
Expediency, exactly. So that's the political expediency we're talking about. You see, but we have to be realistic. We have to be realistic. Anyhow, let's go back to the books. All right, so we're saying that relationship marketing, or we're talking about a strategy continuum where the company must consider, or the business must consider whether you're doing RM or TM, or a fusion of both, right? And we're saying that RM as an addition to TM is a concept. So you have a TM as your operational, operandi, but then you want RM as a flavor, RM as a kind of a managing the thing, not necessarily as an integral part or coexistence, but as a flavor, it's a concept. Or you have RM as a paradigm shift, a complete takeover of the exchange paradigm, that transactional relationships or transactional approach don't work. So you've got to actually replace it with relationship marketing. Or you have RM and TM separately existing in an organization, one of two. So where it suits you, you go for this, where it suits you, you go for that. And then RM cohabiting as one strategy. You get it? So these are the four, kind of approaches that we're saying that companies can actually go for. But we all know that it could be industry, influenced. And like we cited example as a Coca-Cola or let's say Farm Milk, does it make any sense to say that each and every customer has to have a relationship dimension? It doesn't. But Coca-Cola and Farm Milk do RM. What way? Can somebody tell me? Okay, so now the definition of the customer now moves out of the consumer as an individual to the business to business. Because Coca-Cola still has distribution networks. Farm Milk still has distribution networks. Gillette would have distribution networks. So you would have the FMCGs and other sector, certain sectors that actually use mass market, still having some kind of relationship to do with business to business. And we know that business to business is purely relational, or predominantly relational, if I should put it that way. Are we on the same page? Yeah. Which means you couldn't actually go to your boss working for Farm Milk to tell him that let's go for RM as a strategy without actually clarifying yourself which part of the entire operations. So you have the Farm Milk as dealing with the consumers, but you know that you couldn't actually go by collecting each and every consumer's database. Or what's your name, what's your email, what's your telephone number, and then you sit in your depot and be calling, hey, do you want some? Oh yeah, how many do you want? Then you can't do that. And that's purely different from a company like, say, Pogas. What's the difference? Pogas can afford to go to the customers and then get their email because obviously the market is different. So you've got to understand at what point do you have to prescribe a particular strategy. What are some of the influences? And even at the point when it comes to Pogas and its relationship, there will still be some customers that Pogas may not necessarily have to go RM with it. You understand? Why? Because not everyone wants to be relationship oriented. Last time we talked about the consumer's behavior. We have some people who are postmodernists who believe that structures are a way of manipulating people. So they don't believe in structures. They don't believe in church. They don't believe in institutions because they think that institutions are just there to manipulate. Once they get your email, they get your telephone number, even they know your bedroom size, they start manipulating your consumption. They start leading you to a particular place you don't want to go. So some people, by nature, postmodernists, don't want relationship because they're skeptical. Because they think that you become too big in terms of size, that once you have that money, they give you that custom over and over again, you are able to do a bluff. You're able to what? Manipulate society to whatever level you want. So they believe in just dealing with you one-on-one, move to another person, move to another person. So you would not be able to establish a relationship. So there are a lot of contexts why you may want to do what? Decide on RM or trade on TM. Is that correct? Any question, contribution? Our usual engagement. Want to say something? I will move on. Okay. So we're saying that IMTM contains tactical influence in existing marketing management concepts. So you bring RM as a tactical way of influencing the marketing mix. All right. So you know the marketing management concept. The marketing mix is about what? Your product, your price, your what? Your place, and your distribution, your promotion. All right. So when you bring in RM, you're using RM to influence, that process. So, for example, you use your promotion, do some promotion activities, collect people's data, and then try to use it as an engagement platform. But you see, that is not RM, because that is what the leading philosophy is what TM. Only that what you brought in RM to some extent, influence purchase. To influence how many times people buy with you, the scale, and then the period, and then the, forgotten the word I'm trying to use. But to sort of enhance somebody's, or to sort of demand more sales from the person. All right. The frequency. Yeah, that's the word I wanted to. Thank you. All right. So to enhance the frequency at which somebody buys. So that is not really relational. But that is actually TM with a relationship twist to it. All right. And then we say, for example, Coca-Cola and related organizations practices mass marketing, mass communication, mass distribution, etc., but has business-to-business relationship with distributors. So we discussed earlier on. When real or anticipated cost of relationship marketing outweighs benefits, TM prevails. Does that make sense, though? Why do you want to do relationship marketing? It is not for the sake of it, or the beauty of it, or the fact that you think there's a new paradigm shift in marketing and therefore, hooray, let's sing it to it. It is for win-win relationships. It's for the customer as well as the organization to benefit. So why do you think that the cost of practicing RM overweighs the benefit? Why bother? Does that make sense? At what point it doesn't make sense? Can you tell me? Yeah, it makes sense that you don't practice RM when the cost overweighs benefit. But can you tell me at what point would that particular concept make sense?
What benefit?
Yeah. Excellent. 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 That's the point. If you anticipate that in the future, because here we put anticipation here, all right. So you anticipate that the real or anticipated cost outweighs benefit. However, if the reverse is the case, then it makes sense. You are invested. All right. So at a point you have, customers. You have your client, and maybe client A or client B, client A and client B. You are in relationship with client A and B at the same time, but you realize that with client B, the current and the future cost outweighs benefit. You may want to drop down the continuum. Remember, we're talking about the continuum. You may want to drop down to transaction. And that is why it's crucial that you consider two. You don't just rubbish one. Right? So the relationship is not profitable going forward, move down the scale. If the anticipated relationship, anticipated benefit outweighs the cost and the person is transactional based, move up. You get it. And you can only do so by what? Scanning the environment, plus the internal audit of the organization. How do you do it? How do you do it? Create a scenario and tell me. So for example, you are in relation, or you are actually having a deal with this particular app producer, maybe a company, a small business, is producing apps and things. And this company is actually manufacturing an app that can help people all right, that can help people, say, order food, assuming that we didn't have that app. And you realize that doing environmental scanning, political, legal, social, and with a social constraint, you realize the social setting of Ghanaians are changing. All right? People are working more and more hours. They don't go home early. They're spending more time at work. You look at the economic base, and the economic base is increasing. Wages are up. Everything else is becoming sophisticated. Technology, there's an infrastructure, mobile phone, whatever, internet activity, mobile networks. You can see that there's an enabling environment that is going to make this client of yours prosperous in the next future. What do? Prop him up. So start forming a very solid relationship with this client so that today the client is not beneficial, or from a relationship perspective is not actually giving you enough money to offset the cost, but you're investing in the future because he holds, or that client holds, the technology of the future. Tell me a typical example that happened in our country, right here. What happened to the mobile industry, the mobile telecommunication industry? Does space phone and Mobitel ring a bell?
Yeah.
What happened? There was a transformation in this country. Mobitel, as we know, was analog. And overnight, the industry changed. Boom. Something called space phones came in with your numbers showing and everything else, smartphones, small phones. I remember I used to have starter, Motorola starter, very, very small. And I went to Nigeria and one of our bosses said, oh my God, see the phone you use. My whole boss, his phone was like this in Nigeria. And mine was just small one, and I just kept it here. And mine was like, he called his friends from other companies and she come and see. Come and see what is happening in Ghana. You people there, you say you have money. It was interesting, serious. I was so surprised. They hadn't seen smartphones before. And that time, space phone has hit the market. Imagine that space phone and Mobitel were in the market together, all using analog. However, you have some intelligence. The space phone was about to acquire the most sophisticated, most cutting-edge technology to transform this market. Meanwhile, they were, at the point, Mobitel was the lead, obviously, they were the first. What do? You firm up the relationship. Right, so you always want to scan the environment. Yeah?
There's a clear example to that.
Excellent.
When Selfline came out with the LTE data,
Yeah.
within that week, MTN opened a shop in Busu, called it data services.
You see? That's the thing. And there's an intelligence that Google is about to hit. Have you heard it? Yeah. Open your ears and gather intelligence. You're marketers. You've got to gather intelligence for your companies. Whoever works in any of these companies, that's the intelligence. Google is about to hit. They hit Uganda or Kenya or one of those with data. They flooded the market. Google is like the octopus. It has arms and everywhere. So now most of the some of them have started strategizing, positioning themselves. So in the near future, you're going to see a lot of activities towards data. A lot of them are going to strategize, trying to position themselves towards data, giving you free bundles and things just to lock you in. Unfortunately, we haven't actually developed the post-paid market. If the post-paid market, especially I'm talking about telecommunication, was actively engaged, they would lock a lot of you in 24 months contract and things. Making sure that you don't leave when perhaps one company hit. They haven't been able to do that. They are still working on this prepaid thing. Yet they will still find a way to lock you in. So that's that. You have to work on intelligence to be able to evaluate the profitability or the benefit of your relationship benefit with a particular company in order to be able to project whether the relationship is cost effective or not going forward. And that could actually influence your decision to RM or TM. I would be. That's right. All right, so RM, TM, continue again. RM as another perspective in marketing, as we have explained. Industry characteristics may influence strategy. You know, like we said, organizational structure, hierarchy may influence strategy. How does that? Organizational structure may influence strategy. Can somebody tell me? Can somebody tell me? Yeah.
When the organization is not adaptive to change.
That's right.
It's one way the organization is start up and adapting to new strategies.
Yeah. Sure. You know, the organizational structure has to lend itself to a particular relationship, a particular strategy. I mean, if you have a firm whose boss, I mean the top guy, is TM oriented, and I think I had the same thing yesterday when the guy who sells me the book, he called me and he says, the copy that I have, they said I have to pay for it. I said, what? I should pay for the copy? He said, yes. I said, you see? And then he was saying that the two guys, the one that is relational inclined or marketing inclined is not there, he's traveling. But the other guy there, he doesn't understand some of these things. So Doc, he doesn't understand. He said, Charlie, you have to pay for it. I said, really? He said, yeah, but you have to pay at this time. I said, I'm not paying. because next semester, if I have another class, I'll call for the book. So, my culture now, until you know, so when the top hierarchy don't lend themselves to a particular strategy, forget. All right. And more so, depending on how the organizational structure is laid. You know, whenever you have these kind of hierarchical type of long structure, they don't also lend themselves to relationships.
Whatever the cause are, they are positional.
That's right. Yeah, it all fits in here. Exactly. So you're right. You know, how does organizational structure influence culture? Influence RM or internal marketing? How does it? Can somebody give me information? Can somebody tell us something? Let's bring it. Yeah.
I'm thinking within strategy doesn't exist in isolation. It's driven by people.
That's right.
So based on the culture of the people, we can basically like Peter once said that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
That's right.
So if you don't have the right approach to the strategy, it has to be just with the flat.
Yeah. And why is it that we always say hierarchical, like very long structure, normally don't lend themselves to?
Because one thing, organizational structure, the hierarchy is very cumbersome.
Yeah.
A frustrating decision making.
That's right.
It takes very long time.
Yeah. You see, cascading information downwards becomes a problem. And it's just supposed to even be down. It has to be upward flowing, isn't it? But you see, when this organization is top heavy, that's what you get. You know, everybody thinks is a repository of knowledge. They get the information and they stack it there. And people have to scramble for it. You know, at a point you realize that customers will be coming to tell you that, oh, they need this particular. Say, really, do we have it here? You don't know. Because the bosses who think that they're supposed to be a repository of knowledge, that's not. How can that lend itself to relationship? You see, so sometimes there has to be a restructuring of the entire organizational structure or hierarchy to make it flat. When it's flat, you realize that people are able to do what? Avail themselves. And that's why the open door policies and things started springing up, because they enhance relationship building. You know, but when you have a very structural approach where people are locked up in their rooms and things like that, there's no flow. You know, you want to see interdependence of functions. But here is the case: organizational structure is such that each and every function is actually aggregated around what they do, and they think that this is what we do. We are in competition with the other. Why is that? It wouldn't lend itself to relationships. So you realize that the decision to go RM or TM is not only because, or is not only as a result of your relationship with the customer, or whether the customer is wanting to avail themselves, but also whether the internal structures want to avail themselves to RM. Are you with me? So you can see a lot of factors here. The industry style, the internal structure, the customer behavior, the consumer behavior, and so many others would influence that type of approach. You get it? And at that point, you can even see how regulatory systems can impact it.
If you go to beauty bank, the CEO's number is equally written as these are the branches. If you have a problem, you should call the CEO. The CEO is Kofi Mawabena. But sometimes I'm also thinking, when I tried it once and I called him, I was like, okay, which branch I have no problem? And he let somebody stop it. But I'm thinking that in the long run, it might also affect his particular job that he's doing as a CEO.
Exactly.
And I'm also thinking that maybe there's also the disadvantage side of this particular RM.
That's
in
right.
terms of the understanding.
That's right. Which means that, you see, and that's a good point. So imagine that 200 customers are calling the CEO every day. Report it. Then, of course, you're making redundant other people's work. You see. But you see, it's all about organization. How do you organize it? All right? Then, of course, you want to be sure, maybe at a point you can be given timelines. You know, at what time do you want the CEO to avail themselves? So you can say maybe Wednesdays between X and Y time. But then again, if the CEO is not able to take the call, like in your case, say that somebody was actually some kind of moody customer had put this CEO on the phone for 2 hours, and then you are not able to get through. What are you going to say? And you will cry, fictitious. It's not working. I don't think it's true, isn't it? So it may have to be organized in a way. That doesn't mean that you can't do it, but it has to be organized with tact, so that it doesn't also send wrong signals. I mean, Richard Branson is a typical example. He flies his plane sometimes. He surprises customers. He avails himself. Now, as you do that, like Amwabinski's, you're removing the clouds around you, and you're actually painting a picture that this company is accessible. After all, like you said, organizations are managed by people. All right. How are you able to unravel the mystery around companies? And that is why heads of institutions are crucial to strategy. All right. As soon as they epitomize that strategy, everybody has a clear mind how the organization is like. All right. So you now can tell me that UT, for example, is perhaps one of the most accessible organizations. Why? Because the CEO is accessible. You understand that? It may be otherwise, but the fact that he's able to do that, and people are able to get access to it, and then put his case across, you may see him as the organization as the most accessible, or one of the most accessible organizations. Therefore, as building itself to relation. You get a point? Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
It also influences the strategy by way of the teams.
Yeah.
It creates information discussion.
That's
right. If you have a flatter organization, it comes from the source directly from the information. So in the long one, it goes to a lot of things.
By the time it gets the information is distorted. So that's key. And even time and things. This one gets to this, by the time it gets to this, time is gone. And then it's kind of a prolonged turnaround. So imagine that you were supposed to work for a particular client within a space of, let's say, 48 hours. By the time you get there, maybe time is fast spent. So that's how come organizational structure can influence a strategy. So that's a good point. So what are the marketing implications for adopting RM? As we see it, you can pick any of them and then explain it. So what we're saying is that if you decide to go RM, the idea that marketing management is dominant, as in marketing management depicted by the marketing mix, is dominant as a theory, has to be what? Expressed. You've got to actually not think that way. See? So the idea that the marketing mix activities and the most dominant in the organization has to be what? Done away with. You know, what are the marketing mix activities? The P's, the 4 P's. So imagine that you set up, for example, let's operationalize, let's practicalize it. Imagine that you set up an organization or you set up a reward scheme in your business. You set up a reward scheme. And the reward scheme says, that is internal, or a staff reward. The reward scheme says, at the end of the month, we'll add 50% or 20% to your wages or your salary. Here, you normally call salary. Your salary. If you're able to get what? Or if you're able to sell 10 units, all right, of this product, what are you doing? You're emphasizing on transactional limit. You're promoting a culture that is transactional driven. You're promoting a culture where people think that to perform and to be rewarded is by what? Selling. Now, that is what? Marketing management dominant. Alright? Assuming that you want to make a relational dominant, what would you say? What would you inculcate in your reward scheme?
Customer acquisition.
Would that be acquisition? Acquisition is what we have actually.
That is, if you are able to maintain your probably existing customers and increase their time value.
Yeah. That's right. That's another one. But crucially, what will lead to that retention?
By the services you render to them and building the relationship.
Customer info, customer information, vital. Relationship marketing thrives on data. What do you know about the customer? Are you able to paint a pen picture? And by pen picture, I mean portrait. Are you able to paint a pen picture of exactly who the customer is? What does the customer need in the next 20 years or something? Or the next 5 years or 10 years or 2 months? Are you able to paint that picture? So, in most cases, you're looking at, on the database, as you're engaging the customer, you're engaging in conversation. Conversation embedded in it with what? Functional or marketing implications. All right? So, oh, hi, how are you doing? Oh, yeah. You start engaging the customer. Any holidays? Oh, yeah, Charlie. I won't go for a holiday this Christmas. So the customer doesn't know that you're actually gathering in Charlie. All right. Hey, this Christmas, hey, Charlie, who dare you? Then you start going, oh, yeah, Charlie, we are all go Spain. For some 2 weeks, I said. You're gathering some necessary data. So as you gather the data, what are you going to use it for? Say that you're a travel company, or say that you're a company in hospitality. At the end of the day, you have enough information to suggest that you can sell this customer maybe a ticket, maybe accommodation, maybe some other related, businesses. So it's about how much information can you get in order to paint the picture about the customer. Then you can use it for retention programs, for reward schemes, and for many other things that actually support the relationship paradigm. Are you with me? So you actually driving the reward and everything else off transactional to much more relational oriented. Yeah, you want to say something? You see, so it's about all the activities that would enhance or would actually lend themselves to relationship is what you focus on. So that the staff wouldn't be like only, acquisition oriented or acquisition, targeted, but information targeted, data targeted, to make sure that they build enough data useful for any strategy going forward. Any confusion? Who is confused so that we can clarify? Are we all on the same page? Okay. Then we are saying that the dominant quality function should be negated. And we know that when we say quality function, we always mean quality of the product, quality of the service. But we're saying that when it comes to relationship marketing, quality as a technical word for the product quality and the service quality has to be disregarded. Not disregarded totally, but has to be, managed. quality here also means quality of the relationship. Are you with me? So how good are your staff in making a client feel as happy as about the product? You get it? You know that yes, this product is good, but the guy just shows an attitude that is no, no, no. That's not acceptable. So you realize that you're always going to this particular store because the product is good. But you really wish there is an alternative source. Because the way these guys throw their weight about, man, you understand that? We feel that. We have that instances, don't we? Can you give me an example where you have gone and you always go just because the product is good, but for other reasons you wish you would have left? MTN, that's a good one. Yeah.
Barbershop.
Barbershop, right? Yeah. You've been to all of them, right? And you wish you would go there again. Yeah. I mean, I personally have the opinion that MTN has a lot of coerced customers. You know, because there's a perceived something about them, maybe coverage-wise, you know, and things like that. Yet, you call their customer service line, and it's horrendous. I've never gotten through MTN customer services, have you? You call them? Which one? Last week. They picked up MTN. See? That's a case study. They picked up. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But you see, waiting time has parameters. I mean, most time you have.
Sometimes the thing just comes.
Yeah, the problem. It's not even allowed to wait. How many of us have called MTN and took 1 minute? You know, you.
Sometimes.
Yeah, at night.
I've experienced that before, but it was in the night.
The night. But during the day, you don't know. I've never got to do it. You hold on. I can attest for, what do you call, Ecobank, to be honest. I'm being honest. I can attest for Ecobank. Ecobank, I call them, you don't even hear the phone ringing, then somebody responds. Excellent. But I've never got into it to be honest with you. So that's that. You see, there's one angle of the quality-wise that you wish to go there, but the other aspect, you definitely don't want to go there again. So we're saying that when it comes to relationship marketing, the quality function, or the quality as we talk about, shouldn't be only the quality of the product, but the entire, you know, activities that support the product, you know, before, during, and after sales, have to be solid. All right, that's one of another marketing implication. What else? The customer info systems, more customer info in RM than TM, obviously. Transactional marketing uses less and less customer data. And like we said, relationship marketing is much more data driven. And not data driven just like you're using it to promote your product, but to foresee and to predict the customer's needs in order that you can satisfy it better. All right. There's difference between the database marketing where you just get the data just to promote your product. So you get someone's name and address, and good show, you fire the mail shot. Oh, we have that. No, but it's about the data that can help you to predict the needs of the customer. Who believes that sometimes customers don't know what they need? Yeah, sometimes customers don't know what they need, you know, because they don't have the technical expertise in your field as you do. So you are the producer, and that is not to mean that you have to be product oriented, but as one of the aspects of marketing is for you to be able to predict the customer's needs, latent needs, and to offer solutions to tailor them. All right. So the marketing or the information that we're talking about in RM is information that will help you to anticipate what the customer's needs would be in the next future. So are you able to analyze the trend and see in between the lines, you know, what the person is going to need? So you pick a typical student at the University of Ghana first year, come and sign up at your bank. Definitely you know he's going to finish his thing. unless of course he fails. That engineer is going to finish. He's going to do his service. Once he does his service, he's going to get a job. He will marry. He get children, supposedly. And then, so you're able to use the data or the database to track this person's value. And that's what we call the lifetime value thing. His contribution towards the bank at a particular time, you're advancing this person loans and things like that. Once the person gets to national service, you know that he's not going to do what? Get money into the account at frequent rate, maybe than it used to be. But those days it was mother, father advancing. Now he's got his own money. You can now advance proper loans, And then of course, you anticipate that this guy, and you see the anticipation that this guy is going to get married won't just come to you. It's about a conversation. So like I said, he calls the customer services and say, hey Charlie, so, because he keeps updating his data, isn't it? Second year he updates his data, 10 years. So, hey Charlie, so now they do national service, oh yeah, what next? Hey Charlie, they go marry you. Immediately you have to capture that. Immediately you have to capture that. Otherwise your quality, advisor who's listening in the call will call you up and say, my friend, why did they say that? You have to capture that. What are you going to do with that? Once that is captured, what are you going to do with that? That's it. Send this guy bridal loan or something. These days there are so many loans in the market, Bridal loan, whatever loan, child loan, car loan. Send him bridal loan. Tell him that, Charlie, your future wife will take it if you just do it. It has to be posh car. You mean of kiddie star? Yeah, kiddie star or whatever. So you've got to have all these counted in there. So the database is very crucial. Customer information is very crucial. Sometimes, because of our culture, certain questions are difficult for us to ask. And I experienced it in the UK. One customer said they're going for holidays. I'm not able to ask them, what hotel are you going to sleep in? Because I think it was too nosy. Our culture. So I didn't say who is hotel. You may think that we will catch you years old. So it was difficult for me asking some of these questions. So culturally, you may be impeded by it.
I went with Zenith Bank.
Yeah.
And then I had a funeral. And they were there.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. I was so shocked. Before I was their car branded, they were in black. Then we sent it from Zenith Bank. And I could,
That's impressive, eh? Let's clap for that. Wow.
So,
is your account fast?
What happened? I represent the company.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they got to know
that you are
someone.
But that's how organizations doing serious RM supposed to be intelligent. You get it? After where they get information you don't know, but they have to be there. You see, that's awesome. That means they are not sleeping.
So since then I've had
some affection.
That's right. You see, in your best interest.
In your best interest, it goes with your strong line. In your best interest. And somebody says you're bound for life. What are you like to say? Yeah. Yeah, he said.
I want to know whether you knew somebody that in the hospital or the how you were operating or not.
I represent the company.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure they gathered information. One
Yeah.
of the staff or whatever.
Yeah, that's how key account works. In key account, the key account manager is always tracking, the various key accounts. And he's always in touch with he represents, so supposedly he's also the key account of that organization. So usually key account managers will be fishing out for information from other part of your team because they would be communicating with the team.
And when they made a start simulation.
You know, so that's how it works. And every good key account manager is supposed to know what is happening on the counterpart area.
And the last one,
yeah.
Recently, another bank wanted to approach and take over, and I said,
so let me ask you this question, and it's out of a research that I'm doing. Should you hear, and that's not the case though, but it's a what if scenario. Should you hear that a company is taking over Zenith Bank as a merger or as acquisition? What would be your position? Yeah. That's right. You see how mergers and acquisitions impact on relationship marketing. So we're talking about scenarios here. So say that you are actually advising your company as an RM specialist. The company is going to be in acquisition, or is going to find itself in acquisition or a merger. What would be your advice?
So, based on, you asked him the question that if companies coming to take over the by then.
No, his account.
Yeah, he's saying he will move.
Yeah.
But here's the case, the relationship marketing just went one way.
Yeah.
Two-way affair.
Yeah.
So why can't you also maybe the company that may come to take over from them, do some kind of background?
That's the question that I'm asking. What would you advise? If knowing customer attitude or consumer behavior, and I'm asking this because of a conversation I had with a colleague, a friend of mine, an old school mate. He works with one of the banks, and a bank took over. And he said that one of their key clients wanted to move. The lady insisted that she was leaving. For no reason, just because the bank is being taken over. You know? Because he's got some kind of relationship with this old bank that she's comfortable with it. And now somebody's taking over. So that apprehension and that, what do you call, going to uncharted territory alone scares her that, you know, and she's threatening to move. So if you have to advise, what would you say? Yeah, so you
have to, as you say, dig deep into the acquiring company's background. For example, if you find out that their organizational culture and practices are almost perhaps, if not the same with the bank you are with currently.
Who is supposed to find out?
For example, you
don't
count.
It's not your duty.
No, it is you who is making the decision to move.
As for a customer, it is not your duty.
The key account manager wouldn't know that you have the intention to move unless you tell him.
Yeah.
So assuming you have not disclosed your intention to the key account manager that you want to move.
But what I'm saying is that in today's market is contemplating. What I'm saying is in today's market, the mojo is with the customer.
Yes.
The customer decides what he wants to do.
Yes.
So why is the onus on the customer to find out whether the acquiring business has the same culture as the existing? So you want to say something?
I think there are implications for acquisitions and mergers.
Yeah.
Probably the person you are dealing with may not be there anymore.
That's right.
And you will feel very uncomfortable dealing with another person. And sometimes because of the organizational culture, it may change. But there's a new person coming. And you may not be too comfortable with that. So the first thing is, once I see that there's a merger or acquisition, I just
you see, yeah, sorry.
What for me, I'll see that there will be a change. The change will come from this organizational culture. It's very difficult to change. And most of the businesses that are started by people, their underlying philosophy guides that organizational culture. Typical example, if Intercontinental Bank, they have a certain philosophy, a certain culture, and they are taking over AGP, which is a Ghanaian bank. They have a hardcore, aggressive way of working. Yes. So, if you being a customer to the bank, maybe you are not interested in that kind of approach, then by all means you have to withdraw because they will bring in that culture.
Yeah.
Because my senior brother's wife, she was working at Intercontinental Bank. There was this kind of merger. So most of them went out. And where they went to, according to the correspondence that they have, you see that they were working hard because they have that culture.
Yeah.
So they will bring that thing on board. So they want bring that position. They will be that likelihood that they will dominate. Their culture will dominate the room of the
That's right. Yeah.
So you have to withdraw.
That's right. Yeah.
The company that is taking over the name, maybe perhaps have to look at the one that they are swallowing. They are good employees, though they think we will have this good marketing skills and establishing good relationship with their account holders. Should maybe be maintained in the...
Yes, sir. But my question is that if you are RM, all right, advising a company that is taking over another, what do you have to say?
So
that's the point I'm making.
I hear your question so well. So then that means the key account manager has the responsibility to go meet all the key accounts and reassure them.
That's correct.
Reassure them.
You see,
that
it's
things
about
will change.
engagement and it's about making people feel comfortable. All right, alleviating their fears or allaying their fears. Now, and like I said, customers don't care. In the current dispensation, the power is with the customer. All right, because of choice, because of insight, because of rights. They know their right. Now, the onus is on you, the RM with this company, to identify the acquired companies or the yet to be acquired companies' key clients, and then identifying how have you been dealing with them over time. And then, based on that information, trying to engage them and say, listen, we are now going to take over. I know how you've been dealing with this old company, the way it is not going to be different, but it's going to even be much more enhanced. All right? Give them sureties and give them your track record. Give them some companies that can actually vouch for you as an endorsement of your way forward. Because acquisitions always comes with what? Efficiencies. It's about efficiencies. It's about performance. They think that the acquiring company thinks that they can enhance efficiency and as a result, pass on value to customers. That's the bottom line. All right? So you've got to identify these things and then meet these key clients one by one. All right? I know how you've been dealing with these people. Some of them, because of relational perspective, like you said, maybe the staff working there is gone. I remember we did the embedded knowledge last week. If someone is going with the knowledge, how do you let the knowledge stay in the company? If you have been able to do that, to kind of lock the customer in, and they are able to engage in conversations with you, knowing that those benefits they used to enjoy are still going to be intact, but even now enhanced, clearly you can win some may go, or you can alleviate their fears. You understand? It is always about uncharted territory. How are you going to behave any different from the previous or from your predecessor? It's crucial.
No. But when it comes to measures, companies grow. And even, some partnerships, sometimes they grow shares after some time. You understand? So if you are going to move from the company which is going to merge, they will keep on moving because you might realize that as time goes on, another company is going to come or take over where you're going to.
Yeah, but that one you can't predict. That one you can't predict. But the issue is that, see, why do clients move when there's acquisition? Because as soon as there's a news about acquisition, it means failure. And that can impact on your operations. Your money can even be locked. Look, when there was the processes between Intercontinental and Access Bank, the ATMs were giving money free. Yeah. The ATM was giving money free. Imagine that the acquiring bank hasn't got the stature to offset these operational flaws. Why are they going to get money to advance you loans and fees when there were operational issues? Clearly, I hear there was a news that a guy came to them and said, "Some Muslim man below the ATM that might be scammed." But you see, there's another signal. What signal does it send? Security. And big customers, especially when it comes to banking, the number one priority is your money safe. All right. And if that is happening, it means you can't handle the, so quickly they have to run down the bank. So you've got to put in measures where the customer is going to be assured, that it will be an enhanced relationship, enhanced value, enhanced benefits. You understand? So the onus is on you to do that. And that's what I'm saying, that you can't say RM holistically. You have to look at the context. Again, on acquisitions and mergers, key is efficiencies, isn't it? At a point, some customers have to be driven out. Do you agree? Yeah, efficiency. You're in the books, making them spend money to maintain the books. It doesn't make sense. You've got to go out. So, as one of my friends told me, the bank said, so push them out gradually. Push unprofitable customers out. Banks, institutions do that during acquisitions and mergers. They push unprofitable customers out.
I also think that sometimes the customer has a role to play in determining whether to stay or not.
Yeah, of course.
Because it is not just an easy thing to say, okay, company A has acquired company B, so I'm just going to move.
That's right.
For all you may know, company B, the one you were working with initially, may not be giving you a good offer, but the one coming in is bringing in so sometimes it is also the responsibility of the customer, though it may not be the status quo, but it should be your responsibility.
I agree with you. Especially when the exit barrier is high. When the exit barrier is high, why do you want to exit? Or the entry barrier is high on the other side. Are you with me? The entry barrier is high on the other side. Because as soon as you come out, what is going to happen? The implication is that most of your responsibility towards your clients are going to be on hold for maybe a month. Because as you pull out, your banking services, your checks are going to bounce, this is going to happen to you. You understand? The operational implication on your business as the customer who is pulling out can also be what? Impactful, and can actually affect your operations. So it is not as easy to say you pull out as well. Strategically, you have maybe you multi-bank. So you're now going to direct all your financial operations or responsibilities to the other bank that you are currently with if you are multi-banking. But assuming that you are sole sourcing, all right, because of the relationship that you've had with this bank, Zenith Bank, it's so important to, because of that, you said to help other banks, so you are sole sourcing with this Zenith Bank. Once you decide to pull out, look at the operational implications. You might have given checks, you might have advances, When you pull out, obviously it's not going to be overnight. Unless, of course, strategically you handle it. You set up different accounts, you start channeling all your operations through, then after some point, when things have stabilized, you pull out from here. But if you don't take that strategic move and you say, well, you pull out, you have operational implications. So, again, context. You get it. Again, context. Because you can have a massive impact on your own operations. So when the exit barriers, is high, and like I cited an example about why people were not, or people don't really like to move banks, especially when you go to Western world where everything goes through your account, direct debit of electricity, water, gas, everything, almost your entire life goes through your bank account. Imagine moving from Barclays to Zen. You've got to go there and call them to set up direct debit on each of them. Do you have the time? Do you have the resources? You may not want to do that. Unless, of course, the bank has a system where they can do those legwork for you. So when the exit barrier is so high, again, you may want to reconsider the decision. But at a point, you may move. Like you're saying, you have the intention to move because you're not comfortable with a new relationship. So regardless, it is the responsibility of the acquiring firm to investigate the backgrounds of the customers of the acquired firm and see how they have been dealing with them, so that over time they can enhance the relationship and assure them of good service. Otherwise, even if you take them 100 years, they will move. You get it? And as they move, your business up. Any other question? So we're saying that organizational Customer ecosystem, organizational interdependence, again, is another implication. So once you decide to go RM, know that marketing department is not the all in all. The function of marketing is with almost every department. All right? That's one of the RM implications. As soon as you decide to go RM, marketing department shouldn't sit there and say, oh yeah, we control the influence, I mean, the money coming, we bring it. It shouldn't be you. It has to be interdependent. You have to let the accountants know that you can't just be calling people, threatening them of bailiffs. You know. So how do you disperse that marketing culture? How do you let people understand that you're in collaboration, not in competition? All right. My friend, don't call them threatening bailiffs. You know, because the accountants will do that. They will call bailiffs for you right now. You know. So let the company understand that with the new culture, bailiffs don't come in. Only at the extreme ends. And even then, is there any other way to resolve it? You know, is there any other mediating role, kind of approaches to it? You know, supply side, maybe the inventory control, they have to be marketing oriented. You know, the finance department, they have to be marketing oriented. HR, they have to be marketing oriented. So as soon as you pick up an RM position, the entire interdependence of the departments of the organization is key. So marketing department shouldn't see itself as the only function or only department that functions or that actually plays that role of a marketing function. Okay. And then we have the role of internal marketing, other staff as marketers. Again, so that comes out from here. I know some companies where if you meet the accountant, you ask them, Charlie, what product do you need more marketing? Go and ask them. Yeah, he doesn't work in marketing, but why are you asking what product do they have? But is that not a failure? Yeah. You should be able to sing from the same hymn book. You know, a successful company, marketing-oriented company, even the watchman or the security should be able to tell you what product they have. Why is this crucial? He's a goalkeeper. He's a gatekeeper. Should somebody come in and they're closed, he should be able to give information. Obviously not as strategic, insightful as, but he should be able to give the basics. You understand? If you don't consider your security guy as a key informant to the success of your business, then you're lost. You know, you've got to be able to do that. You know, you don't have to say, oh, me, I'm an audit, so I'm in the audit department. Yes, you're in the audit department, but you should be able to know what business you're in. You get it? So these are some of the things that you've got to understand are the implications when you choose RM, you know, as an approach to strategy. What examples can you have?
Can you say, because the interface with the customer is very high in the relationship management, it refers to as a movement of truth.
Yeah.
Because of the
certainly.
Yeah, the interaction between the seller and the buyer.
Yeah. It's highly involved. And that's what we're saying, that one of the drivers for RM is any business that is high salient, that is highly involved in terms of interaction, you want to implement RM. Because the interpersonal relationship is key to relationship management or relationship marketing. All right. So if someone would have to come into contact with the security, how does the security receive this person? You know, is he smile? Is he courteous? Is he pleasing to ask questions? And these are the fundamentals of RM. All right. So long as the relationship is not distant, and even distant organizations still practice RM. But so long as the relationship is much more interdependent, like interpersonal, you want to make sure that you have RM implications, you have activities of RM well embedded in the system. So that's a good point. Yeah.
Organizational capabilities. Internally, in terms of functional areas, you can do cross-functional teamwork.
That's correct.
Where you can understand the things you are doing.
That's right. That's true.
Yes, and then I could also say that the reason why gatekeepers are so important is that
there was a time I was doing a research first degree, and then I had to go to a library.
Yeah.
When I got the receptionist, I was able to, she was saying that they will never need me, and that I should go away. Then I said, oh, it's a first degree and it's an academic exercise. He said, no, we are not listed on the stock exchange. The way she spoke. And then I said, okay, I held on for some time. Then she finally realized that I was persistent, so she referred me to another department. And when I went, in fact, there was one British guy who was in charge, and he was able to receive me so well for me to go through it successfully. So assuming the gatekeeper turned me away, that would have complicated.
That's right.
So they are very important.
And that would have impacted on your view of that business. Of course. Crucially, the way you perceive them would have been different. You would have perceived as arrogant company, you know. Yeah. So that's a key one. Yeah.
So in this case, does it mean the reception who was insisting that they shouldn't engage in the work? Does it mean the organization is not fully?
That doesn't mean that. You see, people have their function and they're supposed to play it. Now, here's the lady who had been instructed that don't let people in. All right. Her number one priority and responsibility is towards that engagement. However, you see, when corporates give instructions, there are times where you have your discretion and you can exercise that. Now, once you are queried, or when you are queried, you have sufficient evidence to suggest that you carried out, but then of course there were instances where you had to exempt, i.e. his research. So, if he had just said, oh yeah, research there, come in, she would have erred. Why? She hadn't carried out the instruction. However, she realized that the guy was persistent, so that could be genuine research, because it could come as an imposter that he wants to come and research, but for other ulterior motives. You understand? By insisting, the lady could have that understanding that no, this guy is genuine, all right? And as a result, let me in. If the lady had to be queried by his bosses, or her bosses, he has reasonable evidence, or he has enough evidence to suggest that she carried out her work adequately as prescribed. And this guy can testify to that. You get it? So that doesn't mean that the company is not relational oriented. But it's just that you have to know the balance. When do you, or at what point do you actually, do this that wouldn't impact on your responsibility as a particular worker or as a department? You understand that? When you say the relationship, doesn't mean the account shouldn't be chasing people for their money. Relationships. Oh, that's right. Anytime you're being
there are some banks in Ghana.
Yeah.
They keep rebranding, changing whatever.
Yeah. How many of them?
I know one.
GCB. Have they rebranded several times? Yes. When was the first time?
GCB has rebranded.
They rebranded like GCB. Yeah. But that's the first time.
It's just a change of name. Change of name is not rebranding.
No, but they call it rebranding.
No, it's not. It's just
Yeah. The same event to bank for life. Because they couldn't separate. They realized I was becoming tough for them. And then when you go there, the bank is the same. That's right. It's interesting, isn't it? When is a rebranding? When is a rebranding? I mean, when is the real thing?
Okay, when the organizational culture changes.
Yeah. Excellent. The behavior. You can't change pictures and that's repackaging it.
The old thing in it.
If the culture has changed, then people can see real evidence. But I understand it's changing.
Really?
Yeah, that's what someone told me. It's true. It's true. You see, I can see that. No, I cannot even talk about it because I haven't been there. But ADB. But I think the ADB one was much more profound than the GCB. The ADB one had a boom impact, like, you know, you want to say something?
I wanted to say merchant bank is also an example.
Yeah. Yeah, universal
services are even poorer now.
That's interesting.
I had an experience just last week and I just couldn't tolerate it.
You see? That's the ripple effect of acquisition.
Yeah, so you see, so you have to move.
No.
So why is it on this also around time? Or how big is the issue? Somebody else going to realize that it's not true. As previously, because of the ATM rules, customers are now roping into using cards.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's reducing the turnaround time.
Yeah, reducing the turnaround time.
So when you go there, you don't spend
much time. But they're not talking though, because I told you my experience. I went to GCB to transact. This woman didn't speak a word, so I finished. She kept doing. I went and said, "Hi, how are you?" And I was all smiley and said, "Yes." And then by the time we finished the transaction, she never spoke a word. I said, "Well, thank you. Have a good day." I was so surprised. Throughout the transaction, she never had a word to me. And I said, really? That's interesting. I hope they're not talking. Alright. So drivers affecting strategy. So the decision to go RM and PM based on drivers. So we're saying that now what are some of the things or factors that could actually drive a business towards RM or TM? And we're saying that high acquisition cost relative to retention cost. People are saying that because acquisition cost could be higher than retaining customers, that's why businesses would go RM, because the cost of acquiring is higher than retaining. But we know that there are times where retention becomes much more expensive. So in that sense, you would want to do what? Go the other way around. But again, it doesn't stop you doing mixture. Even with this, we still know that banks in Ghana are much more geared towards acquisition than retention. It's a fact.
Yeah.
They keep saying, oh, once acquisition cost is expensive or outweighs retention, that's why RM. But we know for a fact that that's not the reality on the ground. Most businesses are acquisition oriented. They're always going for the target. Go for 10 people, go for 50 people, go for people. And then once they acquire these people or these clients, and then it comes to managing them over time, then it becomes a problem. I know a lady,
Sometimes what happens is the person will come and force you, and then you deposit an amount.
Yeah.
Once you satisfy the person, just go and.
That's it. Yeah. Value section. Consumers are also what? They're also looking for value. And you see, and that is why the whole retention scheme or the whole reward scheme is wrongly footed. Because of that, customers don't stay. Because if you have to do a promotion just to acquire people, the anchor, the customer's anchor or the base understanding is that I'm in for 10, which one are they doing? UT Bank, they say what? 100 for 1,000 or 100 for million? 100 for 100. The 100 for 100 promotion. So it's purely on a back foot, isn't it? So you're asking the person to put in 100 to get 100. Once the promotion finishes, he goes to another one who is doing 20 for 20. Value seekers. So the entire system is just on a wrong footing. So why would they have to stay? Right after Fidelity's big 50, and then you are doing 100 for 100, so you will remove that other cover. After that one, maybe Snapchat will do some any plug there, So the entire premise, based on which companies are actually acquiring customers, is on the wrong footing. And as a result, they will not stay. If it's a genuine acquisition process with a long-term vision, the person may consider being with you. And then you manage it over time. I know there was a lady who told me that in their bank, whenever she calls customers and she mentions, do you know your Arab? They rather mention the TM's name. So customers rather know the transactional managers than the relationship managers. It's amazing. I was so surprised. I said, really? There's more interaction going on between the transactional managers with the client than the Arab. How possible? You know, the whole system is turned upside down. You know. So that's the reality. Now, high exit barriers, like we described. If the exit barrier is high, and at the same time the entry barrier is high, you probably want to, you know, look at that. Because from customer's perspective, if he has to enter this high point, why does he want to go? You understand? So you've got to keep the RM process going. Competitive advantage sustainability. So we're saying that one of the drivers for RM is because competitive advantage you can sustain. You know, having customers themselves is competitive advantage, isn't it? Because you are able to block other person coming in if you have a very good relationship with the customer. So you can sustain your competitive advantage. High risk, high salience product or service. Yeah. If the product is such that it's one of the most, some of the, you know, what do you call it? So important, outstanding products or outstanding services. You know, there are certain services that are very, very outstanding in terms of involvement and things like that. You know, you want to consider RM because people are not comfortable giving their what? Private information. So they give it to one business and they wish that it won't go to the next. You understand? Especially when it comes to health. Health, and that is why I get so surprised if our nurses and things behave as they do. You know, because look, nobody would want to go to hop from one hospital to the other. Because of what? The characteristics of service itself. Service is what, as we know, inseparable, is what do you call it, heterogeneous and things. So regardless of how many doctors have learned what, there will still be variations in terms of the advice. All right. So health as a service, you'd rather want to stay with one hospital, where all your ailment is only known by one doctor and one nurse. He has a medical, other than jumping from one health to the other, and everywhere you keep spreading your health ailments to people. Hey, I have Ebola. So you can tell me how those guys are Ebola. By the end of the month, our 10 hospitals know that this guy is Ebola infested. You don't want to do that. So if you would have competent, well-courteous health service, I'm sure that customers or patients would want to stay with one health facility. Ironically, that's where customer service is fully performed. They throw you about, and I want to make cassava. Cassava. And then people, because they think they are sick, and they've invested all their hope and trust in this. It's interesting, you know. It's interesting. You go to our health services, it's just atrocious. The way they behave. God save this country. It's appalling. I mean, very, very appalling situation. Especially when you go to elderly, you see elderly people being treated as nobody. Meanwhile, they're supposed to be carers. You know, they're supposed to be carers. Ironically, those carers are the other way around. But it's all because of enforcement of things. You know, if we enforce the laws, I mean, these people won't misbehave like that. Why is it that a friend of mine was going to do surgery and then she was afraid? It was a spinal. What time was it? It was spinal. So she was really afraid that I can get well. That's how I wasn't here. I was in the UK. I said, ask the doctor the success rate. He said, you're not professor to this place. I said, yeah, it's what you're supposed to know. Ask him, please, what's the success rate? I mean, how many times have you performed this surgery and his wife? You've got to know that. Because you are living in fears. You say, you are